Welcome, everybody. Good morning. Feel free to show your faces if you can safely and comfortably do so. It's always nice to see live images on the other side of Zoom. If you can't do so, you're welcome. I'll, of course, keep your video off. It is really an honor to welcome you and to be able to introduce some of the Baton School team to you. For those of you I have not met, my name is Ian Solomon. I am the Dean of the Baton School of Leadership and Public Policy, and it really is a privilege to be your child's dean. It's a privilege for me to be here at the University of Virginia, to be part of this very special Baton School. I mean it deeply when I say your child has joined a very special community within the University of Virginia. And whether they are enrolled at Baton as an undergraduate major in public policy and leadership, or if they are receiving their Master of Public Policy degree, their MPP, wherever they are, they've joined a special community. We are a small school, an intense school. We're defined by a strong commitment to public service and the public good, by a commitment to evidence-based decision-making, by a rigorous academic program with very high expectations and high professional expectations. We're going to stretch your kids. We hope to nudge them beyond their comfort zone at some point during their time here, maybe often. We want to push them to be more analytical, to communicate more clearly, to ask harder questions, to be willing to listen more generously to others, including others with whom they may disagree, to be more curious, more humble, more purposeful. But we're also a nurturing environment. And students will receive a lot of individual attention from staff, some of whom you'll meet today, from the faculty, which is an unusually committed staff and faculty. And I tell students frequently that there is a lot of love for them in our building here at Garrett Hall. Students and the staff and faculty really is very committed. And I've been associated with several wonderful educational institutions in my educational career. And I've never been in a place that took its teaching obligations as seriously as we do here. Baton faculty really do take the teaching, research, and engagement aspects of their roles very seriously. And we have, and you'll hear a little bit about this, some groundbreaking, cutting-edge scholars making major research contributions who are also outstanding teachers in the classroom and wonderful mentors. My colleagues and I are watching your kids' academic performance pretty closely. And you might hear about that from your students from time to time. So today you'll meet some of the leadership team of the Baton School. My job as dean is to oversee the operations of the school. I think of myself as the coach of a team with many really star players. I also work hard to make sure we are raising the resources we need to provide scholarships for students and continue to be innovative in our teaching and our research. I really appreciate you for tuning in today, and I look forward to getting to know you better, and most importantly, to getting to know your children better. Our success as a school really is measured in the long-term success of our students and alumni. That's what gets me up every morning to help your children learn, to help them thrive, help them make a positive difference. So let me just start to get the energy going to show a few quick photos of some of our early weeks of the semester so far. These will be familiar to some of you, I assume. Of course, you see the rotunda there and much of the lawn. Here's an aerial view. And I've just highlighted here the rotunda Pavilion 10, and I highlight Pavilion 10 because that's where I live with my family on the lawn. And of course, I have the shortest possible human commute to go to Garrett Hall, which is at the bottom of this photo here. There's another view, but you can see how close things really are, and students make a lot of use of it. So there's the front of Pavilion 10 with a green shutter pavilion in case you're visiting and you want to stop by and say hello. We're using the garden there quite a lot for student events. And of course, here is the wonderful Garrett Hall where I am sitting today, and at least some of the other staff on this phone are sitting now as well. Just to give you a flavor of some of the energy that's come back is live students filling the amphitheater here and the lawn. The energy really is spectacular. Of course, we're making great use of the Great Hall here at Garrett, which we've outfitted with new technology for more effective public events and classes. You'll see Professor Shimshak, who you'll hear from later, was talking to students during one of our orientation events. See students socially distant or at least masked working around tables there. You see a bird's eye view from a little balcony of students before they went out and did a scavenger hunt. There's one of the teams all excited to go try to win the scavenger hunt. At the very top of this image, you'll see an orange cushion and a purple cushion. That's the back of a student lounge. Here you see the orange and purple cushions from this room that had been offices and is now repurposed finally to what we wanted it to be, which was a place for students to study and do some of their work. Of course, we also try to make sure we're doing enough outside where we think it's safer and to enjoy the beautiful weather when it's not too hot here in Charlottesville. Here we see a class with Professor Martin, Paul Martin, by the rotunda. We did a lot of orientation programs, getting students outside of Charlottesville and UVA to spend time getting to know each other, bonding, making up for not having had the in-person year last year in most cases. Both team building events and just general social events, working together, making some new connections. And of course, getting involved with some service opportunities. We take the imperative of public service very seriously here. It's a program called Baton Bills, designed by students to get students involved in getting to know different organizations around town to make a difference. Here we have students at the Haven, a place where I volunteer every Saturday morning, and students were involved for the day, preparing food. It's a day shelter for men, women, and children. Here you see the Ronald McDonald House. And really, this is just to give you a flavor of how wonderful it is to see students active, involved, smiling, getting to know each other, and really starting off a wonderful new semester. So happy to answer any questions about that as we go on, but I really want to introduce some of my colleagues. You'll see in the chat, and maybe I can ask Eliza to post it again for anybody who joined late, the people you will get a chance to hear from in addition to me. And I'll ask my colleagues, as I say your name, just wave so that people can see you. But I will, or say a word so that you break Eliza's pin and it no longer spotlights on me. But we will hear from Jill Rockwell, the Senior Assistant Dean for Student and Career Services. We'll hear from Amanda Crombie, the Assistant Dean of Academic Affairs. From Jay Shimshak, the Associate Dean of Academic Affairs and a Professor of Public Policy here at the Baton School. From Steve Hiss, our Director of Career Services and Alumni Engagement. From Ann Carter Mulligan, the Director of Undergraduate Admissions. Jeff Chittister, our Executive Director of External Affairs. Erin Tour, our Director of Communications. Craig Lindquist, the Associate Dean for Administration. And last but certainly not least, Jeff Eglin, our Executive Director of the Baton School Foundation. So I'm going to invite my colleagues to say just a little bit about what they do. If you have questions for them directly or for me or for anyone, please feel free to put those questions directly into the chat. If it's a question, if you don't want to own your question, perhaps you want to just make it confidential, you can send the question directly to Jeff Eglin, and he will be sure to ask the question. We may not get to everything today, but we see this for many of you as the beginning of our 2 years together, welcoming you into the Baton School family with us. So we will get a chance to address your questions and hear your advice and get to know you over the next couple of years. But without further ado, let me pass the baton to my colleague, Jill Rockwell.
Thanks, Ian. Hello, it's nice to meet all of you virtually, and we look forward to the opportunity of meeting you in person eventually, either around Garrett Hall or ideally at graduation when your students cross the lawn. As Dean Solomon said, my title is Assistant Dean for Student and Career Services. I have been at the Baton School since 2008. I am actually an attorney by training and worked in law school advising for most of my career before joining the Baton School, and can honestly say that I have never worked with a nicer group of students than I have at Baton. We're just, as you've seen from the pictures, on the heels of all these activities that have taken us all around the Charlottesville community. And it's amazing, wherever we go, the folks who are hosting us always say, I've never met such a nice group of students. And it really is true. And so it really is our privilege to work with your students. And we thank you for sharing them with you and promise that we will take good care of them. my office has an overall goal of providing meaningful leadership and service-related co-curricular opportunities that strengthen our experience. And we're also responsible for student wellness, which I know is something that is of particular concern for people this time of the year during a pandemic. So those are our primary responsibilities. I think it's significant that at the Baton School, both student services and career services are under one large umbrella. You'll hear from our career services director in a bit, but we really believe that student wellness is at the heart of a successful career search. It's certainly at the heart of a successful academic experience as well. But when a student's job search and internship are not going well, they often need extra personal support. And so I work hand in hand with my colleagues in career services and at the academic affairs to make sure that our students are well and are operating at their full potential. And we worked really hard in the virtual world to keep our programming going, but I have to say it is really great to be back in person and to be able to pivot to resume in-person programming in a safe way. As Dean Solomon said, we just had our 13th annual Baton Builds program, involves more than 300 Baton volunteers and workshops from 6 different community leaders. So it was really fabulous, something that is really served as a model for other schools across grounds. In a couple of weeks, we have a Constitution Day program coming up that will be live streamed from the Rotunda, featuring a preview of the Supreme Court's really what should be a very, very interesting session for the Supreme Court. And I will put I'll put in the chat a link to that event if you'd like to join us. We do annual retreats when it is safe to do so. We were responsible for our undergraduate orientation program, which found many of your BA students doing a cardboard regatta where they had to work as a team to build a boat and sail it. And we ultimately were responsible for graduation, which I said is a place where we really will look forward to seeing you. And we describe the Baton community as a Baton family, which may sound like a cliche, but it really is something that we believe, and it's something that our students really value. And so by extension, you are also part of our Baton family. So I'd just like to welcome you officially to our school and say that we look forward to getting to know you. And I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Amanda Crombie.
Hi, everyone, and welcome. We are thrilled to have you join us today, but we are even more thrilled to have your students here in person in Garrett Hall and on grounds. It has been an amazing time in our school where we've welcomed everyone back and are really just excited with all of the activity and just buzz that's happening within the school. As Dean Rockwell mentioned, my name is Amanda Crombie. I am our Assistant Dean for Academic Programs, which means that I oversee our team of professional advisors who help your student plot a course forward for their time at Baton, as well as prepare for the next chapter as they move out into the world and want careers and different experiences. We make sure that they leave Baton prepared and ready to go. We also serve as just conduits between our faculty and our students, and just sometimes just a listening ear as we go through the experience that Dean Solomon mentioned is quite rigorous in both our BA and our MPP curriculum. I have been at the university for 19 years. I like to tell people I started when I was 10, and that's not exactly true, but I have been at Baton now for 8 years and have enjoyed all of my time here. The experience of moving from an auxiliary portion of the university into central school functions was a key goal of mine, and having been able to work with Baton students over the last 8 years has been absolutely just a phenomenal experience. I guess first I should say our roughly 50 teaching faculty and 20 active faculty affiliates, as well as our 3 professional student academic advisors, send their greetings here from Garrett Hall, as well as some working remotely time to time, depends. We have spent a great deal of time preparing for your students to return back to the classroom full time, and we've been excited to welcome them back to grounds and to Garrett Hall. The faculty are delighted to have students back in class, and I can say that as a member of your student success team myself, but also for my colleagues and on behalf of my colleagues on the faculty. Nothing has been more energizing than to have students here on grounds and in the classroom. Truly, we find this as a reminder of the importance of what we do at the Baton School every day, just the experience with your students and what it is that's going on within the world. It's particularly easy time to remember the need for knowledge to solve the world's most pressing public policy problems, quite obviously, and to educate the next generation of leaders and prepare them for the diverse and divided world that they will be entering. It's also fabulous to get to know your students. Our academic advising team continues to support your students in classes, but also, as I said, as they plan and plot their path forward around Garrett and then through their time on grounds. The faculty have been working hard to connect with your students, both in person individually, as well as in small groups and in regular classes traditionally. They provide socially distanced office hours in person, but also outdoors, informally across grounds. And then even sometimes we've had students who've requested to stay with virtual office hours because it's easier for them to go from one thing to the next and still have that virtual option. So as I said, it's been thrilling to have your students back on grounds. We as a team have loved the experience of working with your students, but also the ability to support them as they have made it through this challenging first couple of weeks in the semester, and we look forward to continuing to do so. I will now pass it off to our Associate Dean for Academic Affairs, as well as Professor Jay Shimshak.
Thank you, Amanda. I'm Jay Shimshak. I'm the Associate Dean for Academic Affairs. In my administrative role, I work with Dean Solomon, Dean Crombie, and our full faculty and staff to oversee teaching, research, service, and engagement at the school. And perhaps most importantly, certainly from your perspective, I'm also a member of the faculty focused on the economics of public policy. In addition to all the wonderful things that Amanda just said about how our faculty are delivering classes and meeting with your students, it's often useful to convey that our faculty, in addition to being world-class teachers, continue to stand out as world-class scholars and public engagement professionals. Just a few highlights. I won't go on and on and on, but I'll mention a few. Professor John Holbein was the recipient of the 2021 Jefferson Trust Award for Early Career Excellence in Community Engagement. Professor Kirsten Gelsdorf was selected as a recipient of the UVA Excellence in Public Research Award. Christine Mahoney was selected as a recipient of the Vice President for Research Public Impact Focused Research Award. All three of these awards recognize researchers whose work helps improve lives and serves society. Professors Adams and Converse co-authored a lead article in the extremely prestigious journal Nature. Their paper on decision-making for leadership was covered by hundreds of media outlets and made a giant splash. Professor Chris Broom continues to change the national conversation on opioid addiction. Professor Bolden and his colleagues at the Center for Effective Lawmaking released a new member guide for members of Congress that offers advice on how to start congressional careers and to move towards more effective lawmakers. Professor Brian Williams was recently appointed as the co-founding editor of the Journal of Social Equity and Public Administration. He continues to pioneer conversations between police and their local communities. Professor Teo Trio joined Professors Mbidi, Room, and Turner as a member of the very prestigious National Bureau of Economics Research, the country's leading institution for economic policy development. Our research and public engagement centers addressing global policy, national security, effective lawmaking, education policy, and social innovation continue to develop partnerships with Baton students for high impact research and engagement with the practice of leadership and public policy. I could go through every member of our faculty and say something equally wonderful, but you get the idea. So instead, I'll turn it over to Steve Hiss, who's our Director of Career Services and Alumni Engagement. Steve, take it away.
Thank you, Dean Shimshak. As he mentioned, my name is Steve Hiss, and I'm the Director of Career Services and Alumni Engagement. I have been on grounds now for over 9 years. I actually came here as the commander of the Air Force ROTC detachment, which was my final assignment in the US Air Force, and I retired in 2016 and came to Baton in January of 2017. So I've been with Baton in the career services business for coming up on 5 years now. As Dean Rockwell indicated, we're a team of 3 dedicated professionals with very diverse backgrounds and decades of experience mentoring and advising students. As she indicated, she has a background in law, and I obviously have a background in public service. Our third team member has a master's degree in counseling and has been a career counselor for over 10 years at 2 different universities. So we have a diverse set of experiences to advise your students. We also have 2 graduate interns that are helping us this year prepare our career services newsletter that we send out every week and facilitate much of our programming. We are here, obviously, to help your students with all aspects of their internship and job searches. And what does that mean? We help them explore the range of options to include service organizations such as the Peace Corps, Teach for America, graduate school, fellowships, internships, and full-time jobs, obviously. We help them identify individual opportunities within the various employment sectors, be that federal, state, local government, private companies, consulting firms, and/or non-governmental, nonprofit organizations. We help them prepare their cover letters, resumes, writing samples, and personal statements, as well as conduct mock interviews. And we're deep into that right now for both the consulting industry and the intelligence and national security industry. It's that time of year for those organizations. And we connect with employers, including Baton and UVA alumni at those employers, to develop opportunities and understand their requirements and hiring processes. We do understand. I have 2 kids in college myself. We do understand this is a stressful time for students and you, but things are not as bleak as many people think. All 91 of our second-year MPP students met their summer internship requirements this past summer, and more than 80% of our 2021 graduates have secured their first destination, which is about the same percentage as it is every year and certainly pre-COVID. The bottom line is we are here to help your students, and so please encourage them to come meet with us. And now it's my pleasure to turn the program over to Ann Carter Mulligan, who's the Director of Undergraduate Admissions.
Thanks, Steve. Hi, all. My name is Ann Carter Mulligan. As Steve mentioned, I'm Director of Undergraduate Admissions. I've been at the school almost 3 years. Prior to that, I worked for a decade at the Miller Center here at UVA and in enrollment management at Longwood University. So I oversee recruitment and admission into our Bachelor of Arts program and the Accelerated Master of Public Policy. So I've worked with most, if not all, of your students leading up to this year. And let me go on record saying, as I'm sure you know well, because you've raised them up, they are truly an exemplary group. Among them are ACC All Academic Athletes, every variety of university scholar and fellow, from the Posse Foundation to Eccles to Questbridge, Meriwether Lewis, Jefferson, University Achievement. They hold executive roles across many, many student orgs, including Alternative Spring Break, the UVA Mutual Aid Group, Black Student Alliance, Student Council, Honor Committee. They have founded mentoring groups for underrepresented youth. They have stood up voter registration information websites. They've started nonprofits. They've founded companies. Some have interned on Capitol Hill, crossing over from both sides of the aisle to intentionally seek out viewpoints that differed from theirs. So they are service-minded, they are goal-oriented, and they are really inspiring. So we thank you for sharing them with us. I thought I'd give you just a little bit of admissions information about this year's classes. We typically have over 200 applications each year for the 80 to 90 seats in each BA cohort. So it's a very selective process. Our admissions rate for the BAs this year was 53%. For the accelerated MPP, it was 62%. That applicant group tends to be a little bit more successful because they've built up more experience and they have more clarity on their professional goals. Bottom line, it's not particularly easy to get into Baton, but what really unites applicants and admitted students alike is their sense of purpose, action, and intention to create really meaningful and lasting change. So that is our charge in admissions each year, to open that door wide so that talented, academically exceptional, diverse new students can find their way to Baton. To borrow some phrasing from Dean Solomon, I've heard him say many times before, and I love his phrasing: we work to recruit students into our programs who reflect the world we wish to serve. This is not without challenges, of course, as we've enrolled greater numbers of first generation and low income students, for example. The financial need of our classes has grown, but it's really important to do because I think the challenges facing our world are really matched only by the tremendous capacity our students have to meet those challenges. So we're continually seeking out ways to better support students who share our common vision. If I could leave you with a call to action, it would be, if you know students like this, like your own, please keep sending them our way. If you have ideas about how we can better resource these students, we certainly welcome those thoughts as well. It's really nice to be with all of you. I hope to see you again. I will now pass things off to my colleague, Jeff Chittister, who is Director of External Affairs, to round out information about our admissions and recruitment efforts.
Thank you, Anne, and good afternoon to you all. So I came to Baton just about 6 years ago, after more than 13 years at UVA's Miller Center, where I served in a variety of capacities, including Director of Policy. I loved my time at the Miller Center. We had some of the brightest minds working to develop ideas that would lead to better governance, better public policy. But after a while, I realized we don't really have a shortage of good ideas in the policy world. We have a shortage of good leaders, ethical, evidence-based leaders, people with the passion, the motivation, and the skills to lead meaningful change. So much like your sons and your daughters, this is why I came to the Baton School. This is where the next generation of leaders is being developed. So as Anne mentioned, getting into Baton is difficult, and increasingly so. I manage recruitment into our MPP program for those that already have a baccalaureate degree. And within that pool, our applications actually doubled over the past year. A lot of people ask me, what do we look for in an applicant? And I always say, think about what we're trying to do as a school. Something that's really important to us is building a lifelong community of impact. You see, we don't think of our MPP as this 2-year program. We think of it as the first and second years of a relationship that we hope lasts for the next 30, 40, 50 years and beyond. So we're looking for individuals we think have the capacity to be leaders of consequence in the policy world. That's what we found in your kids. So as a father of 3 myself, let me first congratulate you for a job well done in raising these future leaders. I know you believe in them. So do we. Going forward, if you need anything from Anne or me on the admission side, our door, virtual for now, hopefully in person soon enough, remains open. But before I turn over the Zoom controls, I want to briefly mention another exciting program we're developing here at Baton. It's called BatonX. BatonX is our executive education and lifelong learning initiative. Our vision for BatonX is to bring our unique teaching and training mission to more people in more ways. These non-degree offerings are going to allow professionals to be equipped in real time with the knowledge and the skills in highest demand in an increasingly complex world. I'm working with Dean Solomon, Amanda Crombie, and others on faculty and staff to develop offerings that allow more people to benefit from the teaching and training of our faculty. Who knows? You may even see some of you in the classroom in the future, something I'm sure would impress your sons and daughters. As you can tell, I'm very bullish on this initiative. My door remains open on that as well if any of you would like to learn more, but be on the lookout for BatonX going forward. Exciting times are ahead. So it's my pleasure to hand over the screen to our extraordinary Director of Communications, Erin Tor.
Thank you very much for that kind introduction, Jeff. And thanks to you all for being here with us today. My name is Erin Torr. I'm the Communications Director for the Baton School. Prior to joining the Baton School about 3.5 years ago, I worked as the Press Director of the Peace Corps and led communications for Michelle Obama's Let Girls Learn program through the Peace Corps. I then did communications for Mayor Muriel Bowser in DC, and then made the move from DC to Charlottesville to join this very special Baton School team. Our communications team here at the Baton School works within the school's Office of External Affairs, led by Jeff Chittister, who you just heard from. We work to oversee all facets of strategic communications for the school, including media relations, news and editorials, social media, messaging, creative design, production, branding, advertising. So really all things communications fall into our shop. It's also our privilege to be able to tell the remarkable and evolving story of the Baton School, including the stories of the individuals who make up our very special Baton family, like your children. And it's really important to me and to our full team that we tell the authentic story of the Baton experience. And there's no one better positioned to do that than our students, really. So we are constantly working closely with our student organizations and individual students to showcase what the Baton student experience is really like. If you want to peek into that window, I encourage you to follow us on social media. Our students often actually oversee the content being put out on social. My personal favorite is Instagram, and specifically our Instagram stories. We often do student takeovers to really show what it's like to be a student at Baton and UVA. And finally, I encourage you all to stay up to date on Baton news and events through our newsletters. I will paste our subscribe link into the chat when I'm finished talking. And if you subscribe to Baton News, you'll get a link to our online Baton merchandise sale next week, which I know a few of you have been anxiously awaiting. So this is a great way just to hear about what's happening with our students, faculty, staff, alumni, as well as when our upcoming events are taking place, both virtually and in person. So I will include that in the chat now, but I will hand it over next to Craig Lindquist to talk to you a little bit about infrastructure and safety.
Great, thanks, Erin. Hi, everyone. My name is Craig Lindquist. I'm the Associate Dean for Administration here at the Baton School. And actually, I've only been with the Baton School for about 1.5 years. I started last March, about 1 week before we all went virtual. So our teams in particular are very excited to continue our in-person operations that we are currently enjoying. Speaking of which, our administrative teams, they take care of infrastructure, technology, finances, and various other operational aspects of the school here. And really, one of the main things we do is we work with teams across the university to ensure that we provide a safe, clean, conducive environment here in the Baton School for studying and working for our students and faculty. Obviously, COVID remains a concern. We continue to really closely monitor the case counts as it appears the Delta variant is peaking here in the central Virginia region. But overall, we remain actually quite optimistic that we will be able to continue operating in an in-person way, mainly due to the very high vaccination rates we have on ground right now. For those students living on grounds, I believe the vaccination rate is something like 99%, but for overall, for all students and faculty, we are definitely around the 95% or higher level. So that's pretty extraordinary and really is helping to pay off. So with that, I'm happy to get to any other sort of operational questions you might have a little bit later. But before that, let me introduce Jeff Eglin, our Executive Director of the Baton School Foundation. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're having a great day, and thanks so much for joining us. I know I stand between you and your chance to answer some questions, but just to briefly talk a little bit about what the Baton School Foundation does. Here at Baton, we work with parents, with alumni of the school, with friends of the university to really make things affordable and equitable across the board. So you've heard a number of mentions of programming, about scholarship resources, a robust internship program, teaching excellence, a lot of that, including even the founding of the school, if you know our history, is due to philanthropy. So the Baton School was created as a philanthropic mission of a wonderful donor of just a few years ago. We've grown to a tremendous institution, and we are working tirelessly to work across different communities. We're on the road all the time when we're able to be, both in your neck of the woods and here in Charlottesville. So we hope to make connections with you when we are in the area. We certainly also spend a lot of time on Zoom and the phone as well. So we're anxious to develop relationships, to welcome you to the Baton community, to hear your feedback, to find ways for you to engage in the school, whether that be on grounds or elsewhere. And then certainly for those of you who are in a place to philanthropically contribute to the mission of what we're hoping to accomplish here at Baton, we're happy to have that conversation too. But we're excited to have you for the next 2 years. But as you've heard from a lot of folks on this call, the relationship with the Baton School is one we hope is lifelong. So your sons and daughters will be connected to us for a very long time, and we hope you will as well. So with that, I will turn it over to Ian, but I think I'll also be moderating questions. So Ian, do you want me to go ahead and just ask one that we received in the chat?
Yeah, excellent. Thank you, Jeff.
So we had a nice question about COVID. So as we are all aware of COVID-related preparedness of the school, if a student has to quarantine because of either they contacted or came into contact with a known person, how does one deal with the loss of in-person class? Is there any makeup class or online attendance of those days? Amanda, do you want to take a shot at that, and maybe Jay Shimshak if needed?
I'm happy to start us off. Absolutely. Thanks, Jeff. So thank you for the question. It is actually something we were concerned about over the summer, and making sure that if there was a spike, that ultimately our students didn't have a loss of knowledge and content from the classroom. And so we have actually worked with our faculty in the Baton School that any courses that we are teaching, they turn on a Zoom recording at the same time when they start teaching. So it's not a live in-person experience that is remote, but it is a recording of the course, and it allows students to watch the course back. We actually have students who, even if they are in class, like to watch back, particularly some research methods courses and some econ courses, and watch it a second time. So they have the ability to watch recordings of the courses. The university had said, obviously trying to keep students interested and engaged as they were in quarantine or isolation. And we've found that the best way to be able to meet that challenge of students having to be out of the classroom is just to provide recordings and allow students to watch the class back. Our faculty have also included additional office hours and different opportunities to engage with students as they are working through a quarantine or isolation process.
Great. Let me remind people who'd like to ask questions to please put them in the chat, or you can send them directly to Jeff Eglin. Jeff, is there another question now?
No, sir, I have not seen it.
Okay.
But I bet they're out there.
We can always, we do sometimes in class that just start cold calling on people and asking about how your kids are doing so far. But any questions? Anybody want to share? Oh, yep. Okay, there we go. Oh, Balaji, maybe a follow-up to your first question.
Good one.
Hello, Ian, and all the staff. Thank you so much. And my daughter she's in the accelerated MPP program, and we're all very, very excited. And in fact, like when we attended the undergrad at UVA a couple of years back, I did take a tour at the Frank Batten and everything, and we were like so impressed. And I was in the one of the introduction classes, how they are doing and everything. So I wished she would attend on the undergrad, but I'm glad that at least she's taking the master's. So I'm not all the whole disappointed, but I'm good. So thank you so much, for all your efforts and everything. And one of the questions I do have is, obviously, like I have heard from the fellow, the friends, as well as from my kid that, oh yeah, the program's very intensive and everything. Like, I mean, I'm sometimes I feel like it stresses them more than what's needed, maybe because it's demanding, but how do they get addressed? Like, do they have any kind of support in the sense that from the faculties or from the staff saying that, yeah, you're doing good and everything? Because there's only so much parents can do, right? If I start lecturing, it's going to be, oh yeah, yet another day kind of thing, right? So how does the one would cope with that, and how does the program will help them, a little bit get over?
Great, thank you. Let me invite my colleague Jay Shimshak to talk a little bit about the role that faculty might play in that process. And then I will ask maybe Steve Hiss can talk about student summer job search after that.
Thank you, Ian. With regards to how do we help students manage the workload, the first thing I will say is you're spot on. This is a very rigorous program. It is absolutely the case that combining the absolute best of analytics with leadership training to solve the world's most pressing policy problems and to train ethical and effective leaders designed and prepared to lead in a diverse and divided world is no joke. We ask a very large amount of your students, and we think that suits them very well over the long run. However, we also keep a super close eye on your students. We're small by design. We know your students well, and we really try to make sure that they are successful. We have a team of 3 academic advisors, and that's run out of Dean Crombie's shop. We also have student services advising run out of Dean Rockwell's shop. We're really plugged into making sure that your students are successful in their classes and that everybody's mindful about challenges to mental health and concerns that everybody's well, especially in these disrupted and challenging times. I will say that our advising teams know your students incredibly well, and our faculty know them well. And we try to keep each other in the loop to make sure that we're making sure that everybody's keeping it together. Students that are struggling, we offer tutoring services, etc. And students that are having mental health challenges, we connect them to the resources they need to make sure they're successful both in the present and in the future. So I think and hope that addresses sort of the top level issues there. I'm happy to talk more. You please feel free to reach out to me or Dean Rockwell or Dean Crombie. And perhaps I'll turn it over to Steve to address one of the questions in the chat about connecting students to internships.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dean Shimshak. And I assume that's what the question is asking by summer job search. I'll assume that means internships. And I guess my answer is we provide the exact same level of support to every one of our students, whether they're searching for an internship or they're searching for a full-time job. So right now, Hannah, our assistant director, Hannah Guffey, and I are working with students who are applying, as I indicated before, to Accenture, Deloitte, McKinsey, BCG, and the Intel community, whether that be for an internship next summer or whether that be for full-time work for our 2nd and 4th year students who will be graduating next year. There is somewhat of a cycle, and I guess it might be helpful if I explain that to you. Right now, as I indicated, the consulting firms, the major banks, and the Intel and national security community are into their cycle, and the latter is because of the security clearance timeline. What will come next toward the end of the semester is the think tanks. That will go over break, essentially. And then in the spring will come government, federal, state, local, that doesn't require a security clearance, which is most of government service, the private sector, the nonprofits, the NGOs. So again, we provide the same service to the student, no matter what they're searching for. We do have some support, financial support for MPP students and BA students who accept unpaid internships, and the UVA Career Center also offers support through the Parents Fund to help students who want to pursue opportunities in those areas, in internship opportunities in particular.
Great. Can I ask Amanda to talk about study abroad for bachelor students?
Sure. Hi, Kristen. Thank you for your question regarding BA students studying abroad. Yes, pending public health concerns and the ability for the university to allow study abroad, students can participate in study abroad. We work with a number of students each year, particularly third year spring, where students can shift courses either forward or backward in their timeline to allow them to be able to take the semester and go abroad. Right now, the university has already stated that there will not be study abroad for J-term because of the short duration of the time period, but we are still very hopeful about full spring programs as well as summer of 22 academic programs. We are happy to work with any student who has an interest in going abroad. We have our BA advisor works also directly with the ISO, the International Studies Office, and works with them to try to help students find the right opportunities that will provide them with credits, not only towards their general 120 credits that are needed for graduation, but also either for their major, for a minor, or for other areas of interest.
Terrific. Thank you, Amanda. There was a question also about what the most recent Baton BA students choose to do following graduation. Dean Rockwell has posted a link to all the detailed spreadsheet. Steve, do you want to add anything to that?
Yes, sure. So our BAs go in many different directions because a lot of them consider it, a Bachelor of Arts versus our MPPs who maybe have had a little more time to focus on their longer term career interests. So where do they go? 6 of them went to law school. Another half dozen went to other master's type programs. They go to Capitol Hill to work for a congressman or a senator. They go to state government, local government. They go to the big consulting firms. They go to nonprofits. But again, more so the BAs than the MPPs, they also go to places like investment banking, Google, Facebook, you name the industry. So it's a much more diverse set of locations, what I'm trying to say, than say our MPPs, which I'll just answer that real quick, primarily go 3 ways. 1, into government service, 2, to the nonprofit, think tank, that type sector, and 3, to the federal, more so than private sector consulting.
Great, thank you, Steve. And our mission is to help your students figure out how they want to thrive and how they want to serve. So there's no one path or no 3 paths. There's really, it's up to your children's imagination and the connections they make and the passion they have for different things. And we are geared up to support them to pursue their passion and their mission. I see a hand up, I believe, from Karen Moon.
Hi, everybody. I don't really have a question. I'm feeling very touched by this whole experience. And I'm so glad to have a window because, as we all know, as parents, we don't have much of a window of our kids' lives in college. And my daughter especially is so busy. I'm not getting all the details that I'd love to have. But I think what really warms my heart the most is the feeling of community and family. Just in listening to her, it's like a stark difference from last year in terms of level of activity. And it sounds like as all Baton students are really involved. And then this concern of balancing the rigorous academic demands with all of the volunteering and the leadership activities. And I'm just glad to know that she has a place to get support. I think time management has served her well in the past, but I think she's really taken on a lot this year. So I'm glad to know that she's got people to lean on. So that's all I wanted to say.
Great, thank you. No, she certainly does have people to lean on, and some students will take on too much and need to be corrected, and that's the learning experience that will happen here. And there are days when some of us, as their parents or their teachers or their deans, also wonder how we get through everything that's required. But I think there is a very strong sense of teamwork and collaboration here at the Baton School. which makes it easier and more worthwhile. So thank you. Any other questions? Great. Well, we will send out this recording or make this available to you afterwards. Again, we are eager to hear from you. We welcome your questions and concerns through the course of the semester. There may be times when we push back and say, let your child handle that for themselves, because that's part of the learning process, but it's not because we don't care, and it's not because we don't want you to reach out. We are eager to get to know you and to include you as part of this Baton community. I do see a hand from Matthew Alexander that I will take. This probably will be our last question. Matthew.
Yeah, hi. I had a quick question on, as you said, the program offers such a wide variety of career options, like from public to private and profit to nonprofit and so on. But if a student, has a clear vision, it's okay. But what if, is there any way to help guide the students to a particular path, or to get an understanding of the pros and cons of each of those different things, so they get a flavor of it, and so they can better be able to make a choice so that they can focus on? Is that something that they provide? And the second one would be, does the student have to first engage with the career officer, or is that part of the program, or does the student have to initiate it, or is it part of the program where they get opportunities to interact and find out more about the different careers?
Great. Let me invite my colleague Steve to talk about the very robust process of helping students in this choices.
Right. Well, let me just start by saying, I think every single one of us that you see here on the faculty and staff are engaged in helping your student determine what they'd like to do after they leave Baton, whether that's Anne or Jeff in the admissions process, or Amanda in advising, or Dean Rockwell in student advising, or all of our faculty during office hours or one-on-one conversations. We are all here to help your student kind of sort out what it is they would like to do after they graduate. As you indicated, some students are like, they know exactly what they want to do and they're going to make that happen, and they go in that direction. And there are many that we meet with who are kind of like, I'm not sure. A couple thoughts. One, that's why we're here. We have orientation programming for both the incoming MPP students and the incoming BA students. Your career services team, which is Dean Rockwell and Hannah Guffey, and I met with, or gave a presentation, I should say, during orientation. We also had an alumni panel. So for both the MPPs, we had 5 alumni MPP graduates, and for the BAs, we had 5 BA graduates who are now out in various sectors for them to kind of engage with and talk to them about their current career progression. And then we have a very robust scheduling system which allows your student to schedule appointments with us. The 3 of us are all up in kind of the corner of the building opposite Dean Rockwell or Dean Solomon's office, and our doors are always open. So not only can students schedule appointments with us, but if our doors are open, it's right across from the student lounge, by the way, that Dean Solomon showed you a picture of. So we are quite accessible. Now, I will say some students could take advantage of our services a little more than they do, which is why I kind of ended my pitch with, maybe ask your son or daughter, when's the last time you went and saw Steve or Hannah in career services? Because what I hate to see, and I'll be perfectly frank, it happens, is despite our best efforts, and we keep track of who comes and sees us, and we send out a reminder that, hey, you haven't come and seen us in a while, could you want to stop by? We invariably get to the end of the year, and a student comes in, and when we look at their resume for the first time, and we're like, I wish you'd come in 6 months ago. So I would ask that you ask your student to make sure they come see us. And the final thing I'll say, having been in the professional workforce for several decades, like most of you, I think students sometimes need to get comfortable with the idea of they may not find the exact right path the day they graduate. And I think if many of us reflect back on our progression throughout our professional career, we probably aren't where we thought we might be 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or 20 years ago. And I think whether it's societal pressure, school pressure, all kinds of pressures, I think some students feel like I have to get this figured out here now while I'm in college. And if I don't get it right, you know, things are going to be messed up forever. And so I honestly do try to talk to the students, say, you know, it actually may take you several years in your professional endeavor to determine, okay, this isn't it, or this is it. And I think some of them could ease their anxiety if they kind of thought through, okay, I'm going to have to get out, I'm going to have to try some things, and it may take me a couple of years to figure out what it is really that brings me professional satisfaction.
Steve, can I just add one thing? We also, we provide alumni career services as well, as we work with our alums. And at the same time, we find that our alums it's really gratifying. We just had a recent alumni event in DC, and we have such happy alums, and it's so neat to see them in these fulfilling roles, whether they're shifting, like Steve mentioned. And our alums are incredibly great resources for our current students. They absolutely love to work with students and to mentor them. And so that's really rewarding for us as well, to see how happy our alums are. And so that's something I would encourage your students to take advantage of when those opportunities present themselves.
And I'll just add a funny anecdote, because I was talking to one of our recent grads who's now technically an alum earlier this morning. And he's like, okay, I know I'm not a student anymore. And so am I like calling you too often? And I'm like, no, there's no limit to the amount of career services support you can get from your Baton career services team. I did say if you start calling me every day, then I might put a cap on that. But we talk to the alums whenever they want to talk to us.
Great. Well, I hope you can appreciate how fortunate I feel to have a great team of leaders here at the Baton School who work with your students, your children, our students. I want to thank you for joining this program today. Thank you for your care and your attention. Thank you for the privilege of allowing us to work with and educate your children. Thank you for your support as parents of wonderful people, as philanthropists. If you are in a position to support the Baton School financially, we'd welcome that, particularly around scholarships for other students. And thank you in other ways you may get engaged with us and work with us over the next 2 years while your student studies and beyond. I wish you safety and health, and look forward to seeing you before too long in person. Take care, everyone.